Welcome to the Militia Gaming Community. I'm Trigger, and today we talk about the 2000 Honda Civic Type R in Need for Speed Unbound. Let's go! All right, real quick shout out to Redbane for this amazing wrap. Thank you so much for the wrap, dude. You guys can download this if you're on PC. It is a PC only wrap. Just go in and look for it on the 2000 Civic and make sure you follow Redbane30. You can tell that's the artist by looking at the top. All right, let's get into this. So testing cars in this game is super tedious. Like I said previously, for this video, I bought and tested every single engine for this Civic in 3 different tiers. That's B, A, and A+. Each engine was tested on the same 2 courses for the most consistent and accurate race data, and from that data, I can compare all of the engines for a given tier and figure out which one is the best overall in that tier. I will admit that there are factors in this game that make it super hard to be scientific with this. The burst NOS is a great example of one of those things. Since the traffic patterns are like really random, you may end up with more or less burst NOS in one race versus another. That being said, I really tried to be as consistent as possible when using my NOS. I tried to use it in the same spots and make sure I was gaining the same amount of bursts from my drifts or my grips. Now you might be wondering, why don't you just do the tests without NOS? And the answer is, I didn't do that because NOS is such a huge part of this game. It's just insane to think that you would race without NOS, especially online. So all of the tests were done with NOS usage. And then one last thing before I get into these 3 builds, I know that you can just go to my build spreadsheet whenever you want and check on my builds, but I really appreciate you guys coming to these videos because that's how this channel stays alive. But I know it's up to me to provide reasons for you to come here, so the difference between just looking at my build spreadsheet and actually coming to the videos is you'll have the opportunity to screenshot all of the build cards that I make, which are very nicely done. Shout out to Babtanian. And if you stay to the end of this video, I'm actually going to be giving you tips on how to drive this and a little bit on the handling profile of these cars. So that's why you want to watch these videos and stay through to the end. All right, sorry, it's a long intro, but let's get into it. First up is the B tier build. After buying and building each engine to fit this car into that B tier box, there's 2 engines that can't even be built, so don't buy those if you're looking to build this in B tier, and that is the 300 horsepower 2.8 liter flat 6 and the 350 horsepower 2.3 liter i4. Don't buy those. From the 5 engines that were viable, the stock engine and the 151 horsepower 2.4 liter i6 stood out the most. They were significantly faster on rat race, which has a ton of turns in it at low speeds. You can see from the data that I was able to run a time 2 seconds faster than the stock engine with that 151 horsepower on rat race. But it was only 0.3 of a second in front on the longer, straighter tourist trap. It's definitely the engine you want to start your build with, so given that, here's the rest of my build. This information is on my spreadsheet, but feel free to screenshot this for later use. Alright, let's move on to the A tier build. Once again, not all of the engines were possible to build into A tier. The one that you can't is the 350 horsepower 2.3 liter i4 again. Every other engine was viable. Here is the race data. I tested these engines on the Drain and on Windy City Sprint, the Drain being the tighter course and Windy City Sprint being the more open top speed type course. Let's highlight a couple things on the data for you. First, it's a tight race on the Drain. 3 engines ran a time within 0.6 of a second of each other and nearly the same time on Windy City Sprint. So although my conclusion will be to use the 197 horsepower 2.0 liter flat 4, the flat 6 and the stock engine are definitely viable in this class depending on what you're building for. The flat 6 has a higher top speed and the stock engine has a slightly more torquey engine. Although all 3 of them are good, I'm definitely still going to recommend the 197. So here's the rest of my build with that engine. And finally, moving on to the A+ build, and this is definitely where I think this car belongs. From all of the driving I did with the car, it just feels like A+ is definitely its home. All 7 engines were viable in this tier, including the stock one. Here are the test times ranked by the engine's combined times from the 2 races I tested. The standout engine, as you can see, is actually the stock engine for this car. This is really nice because it'll save you quite a bit of money on your build, especially if you're building this in multiplayer where the cash is very scarce. Its combined time is 2 seconds ahead of the next engine, so it's pretty clearly the best engine at this tier. And with that said, here is my full build for A+ tier. Now a little bit about the handling. This car does not go faster as a full grip build, which is sort of bucking the trend of other cars. Its turning radius is just not up to par, so these builds are sort of hybrid builds that favor grip, but you will end up drifting a lot of the corners, as you can see from my background gameplay. I recommend trying to grip where you can and drifting anything that's tighter than about 50 degrees. That means all of the 90s and switchbacks should be drifted. What's nice about this car's handling model is that it actually drifts really well, even with a high grip build. It is very user-friendly and you can control it super nicely when you're in a drift. Also, bursting out of a drift is so much more fun than gripping an entire turn any day of the week. Alright guys, that's it. Thank you so much for watching and staying till the end. Shout out to all the Heat 5 members of the channel. I appreciate you guys supporting the channel. If you guys want to support the channel and you're not a Heat 5 member, you can become one today. Just click the join button, select Heat 5, and get the perks. Alright, I will catch you on the next one. Thank you once again. Trigger out.